Hello, thank you so much. I appreciate you attending our session today. I hope you find it really helpful. As Lori and Alex started out yesterday talking about in their opening about the EDIFACT schema, it drives the GDS today and allows multiple airline offers to be shown to an agent at one time. And it's been doing that for about 60 years. It's amazing, right? But as the airline.com sites got going and they really enhanced their sites to be able to describe a meal and perhaps show a picture of it, they really decided that they needed to have this capability within the agency offering so that they could really help to differentiate their product. So airlines have very different visions today about their distribution strategy, but there are some key themes that most are focused on. They want to provide their customers with a consistent and personalized shopping experience and journey across all channels, mobile, web, and the agency channel. But in order to do this, they must have the ability to sell their products to the business and leisure travelers in a more dynamic way. That might mean using continuous pricing, that's one option, but it also means that they need to have the visual capabilities and the itemized features that they're using today on their own sites. None of these are possible in the EDIFACT channel, though. So to bring the mobile and the web experience to the agency channel, the airlines need to start using a new kind of schema to be able to offer these options. The airlines are in control of the content, the personalization, and the display in a more modern retailing platform, which is the way we all do business today. And that is now affectionately known as the word NDC. Now, and sometimes that's a bad word in some forums, but today we're just going to use it choice. NDC, new distribution capability, well, it's 12 years old. It's kind of a late bloomer here in the US, at least from what I can see. But what does NDC really bring to the table for everyone? For the corporate buyer, for the traveler? Where is the I must have this of NDC? And what is the motivator for this monumental shift in the way travel industry does business? So let's look at it. What is it? It's value. Plain and simple. It's all about the value, and value drives change. Value gives us all the connotation of getting something more than what maybe we were expecting. It also is something that maybe we feel benefits us, and maybe even a hope of something different than what we have today. So let's take a second look. What does value mean to you all? Does it mean that it's a monetary value, or that it actually has to do with cash? Does it mean that maybe it's the relative worth of something? Maybe the beach vacation shows value to you. But maybe you're someone who just says, value to me is when I find an item on sale and I'm going to be able to purchase it. So everyone has a different feeling. So really think about, what does value mean to you? Is your idea of value getting a supersized drink and fries for $1 with your extra value meal? Maybe. And maybe it's buying 18 rolls of paper towels when you're at the big box store. Or, I know some of you out there have it, those 4 little words that come with that ShamWow infomercial of, but wait, there's more. So, what we want to really understand today is how you find value in NDC. So looking at NDC value, we need to look at a few different pieces. What comes along with NDC? So first we have continuous pricing. And continuous pricing can allow the airline to offer dynamically priced offers to its customers, so they don't have the constraints of all fare filing regimen. The next one that we have is ancillaries. And of course, ancillaries are everything else other than the airline ticket that they want to be able to sell. A seat, a bag, a lounge pass, any of those items. And so this is an opportunity. Next is bundles. And this allows the airline to package their products together, not just the air, but maybe they want to put the seat and the bag together with it, maybe early boarding. And then there's personalized shopping. We all like personalized everything, right? But if the airline knows who is shopping with them, they'll be able to potentially offer them something that they know that they enjoy, that they buy from them on a consistent basis. And then there's omni-channel servicing, and this is a key. Today, in an EDIFACT world, if the agency issues a ticket and the airline goes and makes the change for the customer, then the agency loses the ability to service the transaction. But in an omni-channel servicing world, doesn't matter if the agency issued the ticket, the airline can make the change, and then the agency can go back and make another change if necessary. They have all the ability to see what's happening with the transaction. But as airlines have moved into modern retailing via TravelConnect, it's the airline that needs the flexibility to distribute those needs, and it results in changes. It results in changes for the agents, the GDSs, back office companies. It changes the corporations, the online booking tools, and other situations as well. You have to remember, NDC is not perfect, but it is moving forward. There are continuous revisions, continuous refinements, and it is getting better. And NDC is here to stay. It's the future of airline distribution. But change brings benefits, opportunities to challenges which are experienced by everyone in this room today. And finally, the value in finding that value in the change is something that we need to discover here. So please welcome my panelists today, and they will join us to help talk about how they're finding value with NDC. Thank you all. I'd like to welcome Jason Kaufman from Direct Travel, Mark Kosikowski from Air Canada, and Erika Moore from World Travel. Thank you for joining today. I think I would like to do a little introduction. If you don't mind introducing yourselves, that would be really fabulous.
Sure.
Please.
So I'm Jason Kaufman, Director of Enterprise Airline Optimization for Direct Travel. What that means is I sit between our supplier team, our tech team, and our ops team and try to make everything work. So whether I'm talking to a GDS, an aggregator, an airline, an agent, it's my job to make sure that the programs that we've negotiated are optimized and working properly for DT.
Perfect. Thank you. Mark.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Kosikowski. I'm the Senior Manager for Distribution Channel Partners at Air Canada. So my role is, it's got a couple aspects to it. So one of my main roles is engaging with the ecosystem to make sure that we find the right paths for agencies and our partners to connect through, identifying new aggregators and other partners to provide our Air Canada content, and also assist our sales team and working with the agency community in finding their path onto NDC.
Great. Thank you so much. And Erika.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Erika Moore. I'm the president of World Travel Inc. And my role is really to take Travel Inc. to the next gen, right? It's digitalization, modernization, and really transforming everything that we do, but still continuing to stay true to our customization and simplicity for travelers. We specialize pretty much in the SME space. And when people ask me, well, what's your real job? It's really about empowering my team. They're the smart ones. They're the ones that do all the work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, appreciate you being here. So Erika, let's, if you don't mind, start with you. Can you tell us how are travelers and corporations reacting to your NDC adoption, and what value are they deriving from that?
So it's been really interesting, Paige, because honestly, so we've been talking to our customers for a long time around NDC, right? What it is, what it brings to the table, what it does, what it doesn't do for the corporations. And there was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of questions asking, so when are you going to have it? And now we accelerated our adoption towards taking in NDC, and particularly, I'm going to say, encouraged by American Airlines' recent announcements and us being heavily weighted in sort of the Pennsylvania area. We started talking to customers and saying, right, we're ready, so come on board. And oddly enough, right, we were all ready, we were all set. We said, all right, come join. And then no one wanted to join. So it's taken a lot of what I'm going to call evangelizing, if you will. We've had to go and do individual conversations with customers. We've done webinars. We've done sort of roadshows, one-on-one. We've gone through deep explanation of what it is, what it means, how it works, what you can, what you can't do. And in all of that evangelizing, honestly, we have been mildly successful in getting them to come over. And what I will just summarize is the number one thing that has sort of kept them from joining is, if we think about it, right, we're servicing the corporate space. We do high-end leisure too, and those have been a little bit more flexible. For the most part, in the corporate space, these corporations don't really care about NDC. They have their own business to run. And all they want to know is for their procurement to be able to cut down the expense, manage it, keep it under control, make sure they get the reports, make sure that that is being optimized. And, we've even gone and done calculators to show them kind of where the savings are, or what that means. And at the end of the day, what has created a lot of resistance is but can I control the expense? Will I be able to keep my unused tickets? Will I be able to track all of those things? Will I be able to continue to have that duty of care servicing? Would I continue to really be able to control everything about the expense side of the business? And, things are evolving really, really quickly, and we're very hopeful, and we continue to inform customers. But until that's all ready, there is a lot of resistance.
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Mark. So how is Air Canada adding value to NDC?
We've tried to take an extremely collaborative approach with regards to our launch of NDC. And so prior to our announcement of June 14th, there was a lot of work that was done behind the scenes in early days to make sure that when we did go out to market and we did launch, that we set ourselves up for success. So we actually identified a select group of agencies on an advisory panel. We kind of talked through what the expectations would be with regards to NDC, what kind of functionality they have, what kind of timelines, and just really took their honest feedback to structure an effective program with regards to NDC. So the result of June 14th announcement of Air Canada officially going to market with NDC was done well in advance, and really collaborate with the entire ecosystem associated to the distribution of NDC fares, not just the agencies, but to the aggregators, the online booking tools. So we really tried to take a thoughtful approach to make sure that everyone knew what was coming. And obviously, some of the key takeaways was for us to have at least one GDS partner. So you saw on the 14th of June, Amadeus was our first launch partner, a free web-based tool for agencies to use as well in case there's an issue with regards to their current booking platform. And again, just to really take that feedback and make sure that we set ourselves up for success and continue to work with the community, that as the product evolves, we continue to take their feedback and be very purposeful when we deliver our solutions out to NDC. So again, and our approach was that with regards, we collaborated to make sure that we're allowing people to find their path to get onto NDC and not take an approach that is extreme compared to some of the other airlines that have done it. And that's okay for the other airlines, but for us, we want to make sure that we were very thoughtful and allow people to find their path and allow us to deliver that value added as people find their path so that they're not left behind. And I think if you were in the session before with Keith and when he talked about it, and he says that we know what our roadmap is for our products to come out. And so we want to make sure that people had the time and path to find their way onto NDC, make sure that everything works, because there is a lot of change management associated to making a wholesale change off of the EDIFACT onto NDC, because things are different. So again, we just really were very purposeful in approaching that way so that, again, as everyone is onto NDC, then we start doing all those neat things with regards to continuous pricing and bundles and all those things, because those are the end goals. But to get there, you have to work with the ecosystem to get the path.
Very true. Thank you very much. Jason, where do you see the value being for the TMC and then potentially also for the traveler?
Yeah, we're really focused at DT at making this work really well for the traveler and for the corporation within the sphere of their program, right? We can't, for our corporations, maverick travelers can be a problem. But at the same time, not getting their traveler service is a problem. Not getting the best fare is a problem. So we've built all of this technology and all these systems around EDIFACT to the point where it's really just kind of the devil we know now, right? And I think NDC for a long time has been the devil that as a traditional TMC, we didn't know. And we've had to learn. We certainly have not been an early adopter. We're a little bit late to the game. But we've done that intentionally to make sure that we could do it well. And we've learned a lot over the past 24 months. Some of it because we wanted to, some of it because we had to. But the reality is that we need to be able to deliver what our customer wants. And on the corporate side, oftentimes, that customer is the corporation. We want the traveler to have a great experience, but within the realm of what the corporation wants, right? So controlling that expense, making sure that the offers that they're getting are relevant to the corporate travel policy, or hopefully, as we get closer and closer to merchandising, specific to what that corporation wants. That's really, for us, that's the big piece of this that is still kind of missing, and it's been the big promise, so that, Goodyear or, any 7-Eleven, right? So that they're getting the offers that the corporations want to drive to them, and they're negotiated within their travel policy. We're not in a world where we're trying to create more maverick travelers outside of policy. That reflects really poorly on us, right? So we need to create value within the ecosystem, not outside of it.
Great. Thank you so much. So Erika, what creates that value? Where does that come from? Is it truly the offer, as Jason was saying, that you're giving them the offer that they want? Is it the servicing? Is it the component? It's all of those things? Kind of, what's your perspective?
I think it's all of those things. So if we think about it, and you said it in your opening remarks, Paige, NDC is not going away. And, it really is now a matter of we have to embrace it, we have to make the most of it, and we have to understand how that is going to impact the role of the TMC moving forward. So if you think about this, right, when agencies began a long time ago, it was about being the trusted advisor because the traveler had never been to Europe and had never been, to different places. So they would come in, you would show them a brochure, you had people that had traveled the world, and you would tell them what you recommended. So we're kind of coming back to that, but in a very sophisticated way, right? Because now they're going to come in and you need to be that trusted advisor that does have the different sources of everything NDC, because Air Canada is going to do it different than American Airlines, different than United, different than now Delta, we know. And that will be our role. We have to continue to be that trusted partner because, like I said, corporations, they have a business to run. Travel is not their business. That is not what they want to worry about. That's our job. So it will be about us normalizing, if you will, the advice that we bring, not normalizing the content. That is not going to happen. NDC is never going to be standardized. It would defeat the purpose of personalization, but it will be our job to bring a consistent approach to how that service. And that will provide for the traveler, and Vasu said it was their North Star for American, is that will give them choice and option. And as Mark is mentioning, right, for the customer and enabling that enriched and enhanced experience ultimately for the traveler, that will be everybody's North Star.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Thank you. Mark, comments on that? Yeah,
so I think one of the important items to think about NDC is that for NDC is the platform that allows us as an airline to return people in the ecosystem, the agencies and the online booking tools, a similar shopping experience to what .com does, right? So prior to us launching NDC, a lot of the feedback is that my travelers said they found this on .com, they found this price and this bundle, those kinds of things. So what NDC does, it allows us to provide that omni-channel shopping experience, so not just on .com, but on the various online booking tools and the agency websites so that they have access to those same fair products and fair information. So it gives the travelers the ability to have that same shopping experience across all the channels. So again, that's one important thing. And then for us, the other important item is that we want to deliver that across to the ecosystem here. But the other important component was that we know in the agency world, servicing is a key component. So again, we have seen airlines that have gone to market with a different approach with regards to just having the shopping done on NDC and servicing is done by a call center or through an online tool. And we got the honest feedback that it's not ideal. You're not setting yourself up for success by taking that approach. So another important item from our agency advisory panel was that if you go to market, you must have order change. You must have post-booking capabilities. So this was another key component that we delivered that has been able to be deployed across the ecosystem to give the corporate travelers or any travelers the ability to shop and book in the same channel, or with Air Canada, there's a possibility if there is an issue or if there's a problem, the traveler can go and self-serve on .com, which is ultimately giving our common customer the ability to service where they need. But we also deliver the order change notification that if a traveler does something on our website or calls the call center, we push an OCN order change notification to the agencies to advise them that change has been made. And should subsequent changes be needed, the agencies still have access to that PNR. So, which is another important item. Again, I'll refer back to this a lot because we were very thoughtful with regards to, we want to make sure that we provided the agencies and the ecosystem the ability to be successful, and not like for us to block the control to the agencies, but allow them to carry on and service their customers as well after that. So again, that's just
totally agree. And I appreciate your mentioning the OCN, because that has been something that has been mentioned so many times across all the stakeholders about how valuable the OCN is to them. They've got to have the information. It is key,
I think, and that, again, it's just full transparency to everyone working with us in Air Canada to have full visibility as to the changes that have happened, and that you have the ability to put up the PNR and see what the latest state of that PNR is. So it was critical.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jason, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, so Mark talked about the OCN. We've talked about servicing. Those are two huge things that if we're going to move forward, as we move forward on this journey together, that's going to help us support the customer, whether it's the leisure customer, whether it's the corporate customer, whether it's the corporate buyer. All of those things are really important for us to be able to create value, because without those things, we just kind of feel like we've shifted from one black box to another black box. And that's not really what we're trying to do here, I don't think. If that's the airline intention, be honest about it. But that's not what I think we're trying to accomplish. We're really trying to improve the ecosystem in a new and different way, where we can do things. What a lot of TMCs, DT included, weren't really thinking about was what can we do better in NDC? And those things are starting to come to light now, right? And you have to do that, you have to think about what doesn't work well in your current world. And a lot of us have gotten so used to what doesn't work well that we just accept it. But things that don't work in EDIFACT can work really well in NDCs. Things as easy as figuring out if a seat is refundable or not because someone changed flights. Very complex when you're dealing with 60, 70, 150 airlines. In NDC, much simpler, right? So we're trying to, as we go through this journey, pick out those things so internally we can remind our agents, our travel managers, our account managers, hey, there's really a lot that is going to be really great about this. And we may not be there right now, but look at where this can take us.
I agree. Thank you very much. I think one of the things you talked about was that the EDIFACT, there are issues with EDIFACT, but we kind of all have accepted them for a long time because that's what we had. There was nothing else. And now we're looking at changing, and that isn't always a great, easy thing, right? It is difficult. So let's look at a little different perspective. Kind of, what do you think about value for an aggregator? Is there value for an aggregator? I mean, we've had GDSs, major GDSs, now creating an aggregator capability. Any thoughts on that, Erika?
Well, I will say for the time being, we are exclusively GDS content consumers and aggregators, right? So we consume everything through a major aggregator and our GDSs. I'm not going to say any names, so it's not a plug to them, but that is the way that we work. And while we do rely heavily on them being able to streamline the content, we really do not, moving forward, discard the possibility of being a lot more diverse. And I know that with some fellow TMC members that have been on stage and, even with direct travel, there is this concept that there will always be a place for the GDS. It is a great aggregator of content. And if you are heavily inclined towards servicing customers in a particular region, you might go to more direct connections in that market. But certainly for the depth of consuming 450 airlines around the world and making sure that you continue to bring value to your travelers, you need to bring in someone that normalizes that content for you to some extent. So I do believe that there will always be a place for aggregators. I do also think that the way in which we interact and the way and the technology that they use to normalize the content will continue to improve. So very optimistic.
Great. Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, so I would agree. Absolutely. I think that the GDSs are definitely an important part of our distribution strategy, and going to market with at least one with us on NDC was important. But we also had a roster. What we saw was that an emergence of new players in the market space with regards to understanding APIs, understanding how to integrate towards them, and present them out to agencies for consumption as well. So we absolutely saw an opportunity for us to diversify the number of potential connection points for our agencies and various other partners to connect through and work with us. And they've definitely helped us get into other markets or other opportunities that potentially weren't possible while we were waiting for the GDS solutions. But I definitely think that there are a few players out there in the market that have done a really good job in connecting through and giving agencies another option to connect through, get access to content. And again, for an agency to do a direct connect with each airline is impossible. It would take too long. It's not realistic, right? So again, we do present the opportunity as one of the paths available for agencies to work through and get access to Air Canada. We do offer up a direct connect, but again, I think there's a lot of economies of scale in working through with a GDS or an aggregator partner, because again, they take all that content, normalize it, and just make it a lot easier. So in one connection, you can get access to 25, 35 airlines, right? Exactly. As opposed to doing 25, 35 integrations.
Of course, agree. Yeah. Totally agree. Jason?
Yeah, I think, not only do we have GDSs acting as aggregators, we have now GDSs partnering with aggregators. So we're adding a whole new level to this. And I think about the different ways that direct travel consumes Air Canada's content. And I'm up to like 9 as I sit here right now, like different channels, GDSs, aggregators, OBTs who are partnered with different aggregators than we are. There's this huge box to choose from. And the area where a lot of TMCs may be struggling a little bit is figuring out what the right channel is, the best path forward for each of these use cases, but also making sure then that we can get the answers that we need, especially on the servicing side. Like order fulfillment, I think we've all kind of got that down, right? But if aggregator A can do X, Y, and Z for this airline, aggregator B can do A, B, C, and a little bit over here, 2, 3, and 4, and aggregator C doesn't do any of those for that airline, but it does A to Z and 1 through 99 for the other carrier. That's a lot for us to consider strategically. So
yeah, I would say so.
We're trying to figure, historically, we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that we make the right decisions, because this is very expensive, not just expensive for the airline, but expensive for the TMC as well, to learn, to select, to implement, and of course to train not just our agents, but also our account managers, train the travel managers at our corporations. So we don't want to be in this hamster wheel of how are we doing NDC this week? How are we going to do NDC next week, right? Like, let's make some good decisions.
Yeah, but I guess that's an evolution, right? As you find your path forward, as you find the different connection points which do better things for you depending on who it is, this is an evolution, right, with regards to NDC. But again, so airline distribution has been leveraging messaging from 1960-something for quite some time. And we recognize that we had to evolve in order for us to become much more, act like merchants, right? Retail shopping, online shopping experience. And so NDC delivers that. So we recognize that for agencies, it's as much as we've invested money into the infrastructure, into the resources and the trainings and all that we did, we recognize that there's a change management component to you guys in terms of it disrupts a lot of things, and it takes time to find the right path forward. For a little bit, it could be potentially a couple of connection options, or it could be one option. But again, it's going to take time to find that path that becomes the well-oiled machine to do everything that you need it to do.
Yeah. And Paige, we were talking just yesterday, kind of off to the side, and we were commenting on the similarity between current environment and when motor cars were introduced, right?
Yes, I love this. This is a great
So-
story. This is a great story.
So we're saying, all right, so when you had carriages and you had horses, and then the car, came on, and people were resisting the car because they said, oh, well, if people really just want to go faster, just add more horses, right? Which is kind of what some people are saying around NDC. It's no, just bring in, it's not about technology. It's totally about technology. It's not just about adding more people. But if you think about that, you have this environment where for some time you had the carriages, you had the cars, and the streets still smelled. I'm not going to say the word on stage, but all of you can figure out what streets smelled like if there were a ton of horses kind of running around cars. So it might be like that for a little while, but there is a place for the aggregators, API connections, direct connects, GDSs, and I will say kudos to Air Canada, the way that they're handling this sort of ecosystem and bringing everyone on board, because it does make it easier. Yeah. There isn't a clear-cut path forward, but as much as the GDSs and the online booking tools and the airlines do collaborate in making that a little bit easier, at the end of the day, it is the traveler and the corporation that benefits from that sort of orchestrated way of moving forward.
Thank you. I love that story. That was a great story. I appreciate it. Jason, let me start with you for this time. How does NDC affect kind of the day-to-day operation at Direct Travel?
There's a lot of learning. There has been a lot of learning that goes on a day-by-day basis, on an airline by airline, GDS by GDS, aggregator by aggregator, department by department. Right? What does NDC mean to group travel? What does NDC mean to incentive travel? What does NDC mean when I'm given a list of 1,400 attendees that all need to be here for this conference and we've got 2 days to book them, right? Yeah. So trying to carry some of those real life scenarios about how we do business across the entire operation. And then, of course, listening to, we have a population of leisure agents. We have a population of independent advisors. They have different needs. We need to listen to them. We need to give them the tools they need. So there's been a lot of questions. There's been a lot of learning. And there will continue to be a lot of questions. Yeah. And there will continue to be a lot of learning. And, obviously I have some things that are different for me than they were 2 weeks ago, based on what you all have seen in the trade publications and in the news. And that's exciting for us because it does give us some clarity and a path forward and a technology vision that I think was still a little bit muddled. And now I think it's a lot clearer for us.
Good. Erika, how about you? How about the day-to-day? How is that going? Is that different today?
So right now it's challenging. I will say it has sort of created a spin, particularly on the people that are doing the servicing and the account management teams. There's a lot of strain, a lot of questions. There is a lot of anxiety from corporations and our travelers around, well, they want definitions. And it's really hard to tell them that it's a continuous moving target. So honestly, it's about continuing to invest in the technology, which we are doing. We're building more and more out our capabilities in terms of being able to aggregate this content and be able to continuously provide that fulfillment. But for the time being, I would say the most challenging piece is it's like they want a black and white definition, customers do, of what is it that I'm going to get. And you can't do that because technology is moving so fast that what we're doing is almost, about to start sending out weekly releases, right? Because the functionality that cannot be serviced, for example, on, one of the booking tools right now, 2 weeks later, it will have evolved because everyone is laser focused on making it better. So all positive, but, a little bit stressful for the time being.
Yeah. How about you, Mark, at the airline?
So for me, how does it change my day-to-day? Well, obviously, although June 14th it was the official launch of NDC, Air Canada has been offering up a Direct Connect API for 15 plus years. But I think now where we're at is that we've been exposed to a lot more opportunities, a lot more different agencies, a lot of different markets as well. So I would say every day is a learning day. We try and account for as much as we can when we go through our use cases and testing and servicing scenarios. And again, we get very honest feedback from our agency partners and the tools and saying, well, I went through this scenario and it doesn't do this, and we were expecting this kind of behavior. So it's taking a lot of that information back with the team and sharing how do we close the gaps change our assumptions, and just continually work with the ecosystem to make sure that as we launch into different markets, as we add new functionality, that it does what it's supposed to do. So again, and the other big thing that we've done at Air Canada is that as we launch into new markets, we work with the local sales representatives. We have webinars for the agencies to kind of walk them through NDC, why it's important, what's in it for them, how they can connect through, what their roadmap is. And again, so we're launching into new markets, and we continually try to educate the local market to go out and talk through what the NDC proposition is with regards to NDC. What is the content that is available today? What does the roadmap look like? Because we're going to continue to invest in NDC. What we have today is not the end state. Again, we recognize that there's a lot of needs for us to keep up to what the traditional distribution systems do. And we can do a lot of what they do today, but we need to do more. And also, as we evolve and create these new innovative value-added products delivered, how do we account for those? How do we present those? Making sure all the tools have the ability to display those kinds of offers, and making sure that when they service those offers, it doesn't cause any disruptions for the travelers ultimately, right? So really, again, it's just constantly working with the various stakeholders in the ecosystem, even within Air Canada, kind of sharing back that information in terms of what we need to do to keep up and continue to evolve and keep on delivering valuable solutions.
Oh, agreed. Thank you so much. I mean, I think we've kind of all talked here about it, this evolving product called new distribution capability or proprietary schema or whatever we're calling that, the new way of doing business in a modern retailing environment. And it is evolutionizing. It is getting better. It is being refined. And I agree with your comment, Erika, that there are times when it's 2 weeks down the road and now you have a big plus, a new change that was made. So thank you so much. We do have some questions from the audience. Please feel free to send more in if you'd like. Isn't there a simple contradiction between what the airline wants and what a company wants? Okay, so that is the question. And the airline needs to sell more and increase the traveler spend while the corporation wants to spend less. Is it all about the spend? Is that where value is? Is that what the corporations are looking for, Erika? Or are they looking for something else?
So I think that this is shifting, and we've talked about this in various forms, and it's shifting as the labor force is shifting as well. So more and more in the conversations that we've had with customers, it's also being about the type of talent that they want to attract. So with this Gen Z starting to be sort of the generation that steps up to the plate and becomes part of the labor force, there is a laser-focused sort of presence around making sure that travel and everything around travel becomes a perk to the offering for employment. So more and more for different companies, it is more about, it's not about less spend, it's about controlled spend within the definitions of what they have defined their travel program to be. And that definition doesn't necessarily mean less money. It does mean controlled expense, but it is a lot more about what perks or what am I going to be able to add value to the people or the talent that I'm trying to attract as I bring them in. And that is very much aligned to the purpose of NDC. That is completely aligned to personalization because it is completely aligned to the way that this emerging travel force, right, or workforce, if you will want to consume travel and will want to experience the labor market. So I actually think that if you look past what we're just seeing right now, it starts to be very much aligned. Right now, like I said, it's like the streets of New York in the, turn of the century. It's a little smelly.
Right. Here's another one. We're counting down, so I'm going to kind of not have everyone answer if you don't mind. So, Jason, do you see corporations changing their really restrictive control on travel expenses, especially as the new generations, as Erika was just mentioning, are starting to be the one to travel?
Yeah, I mean, different strokes for different folks, right? We have all sorts of different travel policies that we're responsible for managing and to a certain extent enforcing, and some get looser, some get tighter. Different things are happening all the time. It's a constant area of change. Overall, I don't know that I could say specifically corporations are doing one thing versus the other, maybe to the level that Erika can, but we see it all the time. Even to the point where we have, we bring in, one of our business lines is in the fisheries area. It's a small piece of our business, but their travel policy has evolved a lot over the past couple of years as well, just because the needs of their business have changed. And we're going to constantly see that. I don't expect, it's not a one-size-fits-all area. I can't say that I've really been able to specifically identify a trend. But I also think that the opportunities for abuse and poor decisions are growing, right? So travelers it's easier to make a bad decision maybe now than it was 3, 5, certainly 10 or 15 years ago as a traveler when spending your corporation's money.
Yeah, agree. Thank you. One question that I think marked here is values clear for shop and book, definitely. The lack of standard across carriers in regards to servicing leads to an extensive manual labor problem, right?
Agreed,
and kind of what is being done, at least from your perspective, on how to make the entire process a little more easy and a little more streamlined?
Yeah, so obviously for us going to market with post-booking capabilities was critical again. And it's true, we have seen in the market, airlines have different approaches with regards to what is their minimum viable product to go out there. And again, everyone has their own strategy. Ours is very thoughtful, again, from the valued feedback from our agency advisory panels, that the ability to service and book in the same channel is critical, and that's why for us it was crucial. But the other thing worth mentioning here is that what NDC does as well is that today, when you think of an involuntary sched change that happens to a traveler in the traditional EDIFACT, it gets sent off to a queue, an agency has to do something with it. So there's a bit of a manual intervention. With our approach on NDC, leveraging technology to automate the process, is that Air Canada actually does the first level reaccommodation for the involuntary sched change, and the agencies have the ability to accept the change. You're entitled to one free change if that new sched is not suitable, or if there's nothing suitable, you can get a full refund. So again, this is all automated. This is all part of the user experience that a traveler or an agency would have in working through with us on NDC. So again, for us, it's an opportunity not just to deliver unique, differentiated content and all that value, but again, it's to really help the ecosystem in becoming more efficient and not trying to remove some of those manual processes today in the traditional GDS to make it automated and make it easier for our partners to work with us.
Great, thank you. Erika, this one coming in here for you. So how do you motivate the team and your customers to adopt more modern retailing NDC? I mean, this is obviously something you talked about at the very beginning. How do you motivate to keep them going out and talking to customers?
Well, I think so particularly for us, there's a lot of passion around service, right? So, the team is very much invested in the customers. I will say some of our customers have been with us for over 30 years. So there is a very strong bond there of sort of wanting to make sure that we're doing the best thing for them. So while we are, heavily users of technology, we have approximately a 90% online adoption. So technology is huge. That personal connection and that personal servicing and that aspect of the being able to be there for a customer is really a key priority. So it's about training our team and making sure that we tell them, look, this is why it will be better. And for now, I will say, for the most part, it is a little bit around the commercials, right? You can find better deals on NDC than on traditional channels. So again, we created a calculator where we say, look, this is what it means for your customer, right? This is what it means for this people that you're servicing, that you're so proud to have serviced for 15, 20, 30 years. But it is also about talking to them about other things, right? Gen Z, what's coming, why it will be even more and more important. And it's also about making sure that they understand that that not adopting NDC is not an option anymore. Like, that's gone. It's not there.
Right. Jason, any comments from you on that? How do you motivate your team to keep pushing the opportunity?
We got to show them the stuff that makes their life better, right? There's the education piece. It's going to be huge, and it's just starting, really, because there is a lot of fear more than resistance, right? I think just people it's the unknown.
That's what it is.
Yep. So, and airlines like Air Canada have gone really out of their way to try to be very inclusive about what their journey is and how they want to do things and how they want to make this better. different airlines have had different ways of accomplishing that. So we want to be able to show our team what's great about this, and we need some real world examples, which we're getting, but we also need support from the carriers beyond just, send an email to this box and hopefully someone will get back to you.
Great. No email to the box, please. Yeah, thanks. All right. Well, we are just at time. I want to say thank you so much for all of your insight today and for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming into the session. Hope you found it good.